Hi, my name is Strack van Schijndel. I'm a long-time MediaWiki fan and user and developer, and I like to innovate with MediaWiki. So I must say that yesterday I saw a presentation, and somewhere it was about the real battle that we hear all the time with other wikis, and I'm not sure that I agree, or I think I don't agree, because the MediaWiki platform has such potential and is really capable of moving, let's say, moving in the stream of innovation. So what I want to talk about today is MediaWiki as a governance, risk and compliance platform, but that's not the main topic, I can assure you. But featuring Juggel with MACH and BFF, I think that is, and it will show the way I think we should deal with MediaWiki in an enterprise ecosystem. And of course, the great objective is to deliver what Rich has in mind or what Rich is promising. So that's what we have to do. I think that's the only goal we should have. Let's have a look. Okay, so what are the topics? I'm going to show a little bit of this GRC platform, but that's only to get an idea that Juggel is really MediaWiki in a modern way. Then have a look at the MACH architecture and what it is. I didn't know that, so I assume more people don't know what it is. BFF, I thought I knew what BFF meant, but this is different. And the role of MediaWiki in such an architecture. Okay, let's have a look at just any governance, risk and compliance platform. It's about business goals. I think it's about norms. It's about understanding what you want. It's about understanding what you have, risks, and how to mitigate those risks, and how to implement those controls in policies, processes, evidence, and being able to audit that. So this is the kind of stuff that we can deal with with MediaWiki. We know how to do that. So that's not a big deal, you could say. Well, let's have a look. Let's have a look how Juggel does that or takes care of some important things in a wiki. It's about defining classes, such as this asset class. It's about creating pages, which is what we are doing now. So I'm creating a new asset in this platform, and obviously for me important assets are Juggel platforms that I create for customers. So let's take that. But what we saw was that I wasn't able to enter the value, so we have to change something here in the definition of this class. Well, and the way I do that, I don't have a form that I can use to change the properties of the class, to change the definition of the class. I always use an AI assistant that is specialized to do that refers to the schemas page that has all the rules and all the options for such schemas, for such JSON type schemas. So what I can ask this AI assistant is to just change the options for the value property, and that's what I'm doing here. And it's kind of a conversational assistant, so it wants to be sure that he understands or she understands me well, okay, well, this looks good. So just push the stuff to the page and update. And yes, we have a new definition. We have changed the options. So let's go back to the asset that we just created and change that. So, like I said, this is basic Juggel stuff that probably you've seen before, or I should say possibly you've seen before. There's one thing that I am going to show here, and that is if you have an asset you want to do a risk assessment, and you can use a list dupe for that. So it's very easy to configure in a similar way as you configure the classes. You can configure risk assessment here, and it all makes sense. You have to link to an asset, you have to choose a risk, and you have to enter impact levels and probability levels, and the risk level is then automatically calculated, and that's all stuff that you can define here in this schema. So let's have a look at, let's enter some values there. And there's one more thing that I want to show you, and that's if you store this, then this row is stored as a sub-object, so you have you are able to query that on another page, and of course the page that you want to query it on is the risk page, because you also want to know what assets are linked to that risk. So this is what I want to show you, just to get an idea of what a GRC platform can look like in Juggel. But when you think, so that works nice, but of course there are some things that you really want in addition to that. And some things that I want to be able to do is first the norm, the standard documentation. I want to get that from some other source. If I have, let's dream a bit, if I have dozens of customers for such a GRC system, I want to have the documentation for the norms in one wiki and have the others use that. So that. Second, there are always documents in SharePoint or Google Docs or similar DMS, and we must be able to use that. So that don't use MediaWiki as a document management system. I think that's just not a great idea. We've seen that AI can help you with all kinds of things. Well, the thing that I use it for is not in this list because that's so common to me, but for a GRC system it would really make very much sense to identify and describe risks and to use the data that is in the wiki for creating such lists that I showed you, such risk assessment. I really liked the presentation yesterday, I think from Tina, where she showed how you can use an export XML and do things in that XML file with AI. And that's similar things you can apply in a Juggel environment because you can read the data sets, you can read results of a query and use that information in wherever you want. Also, I think that if you want to provide apps for workers that use the information, so more consumers than knowledge workers, you really want to provide specific apps. And I think Rich talked about that yesterday. You also want to be able to show your stakeholders some evidence, and that's consumption of information, and the users of such a dashboard are not wiki users. They want to have that information in an app. So what you see here, and that's what I'm going to show you more, there's a difference between a kitchen and a dinner table. And what happens in the kitchen is very important, but what you want to deliver to the consumers is a nice meal, and don't bother them with what happens in the kitchen. So so we have an idea about what a perfect solution for governance, risk and compliance platform might look like. And here things get interesting, I think. This MACH architecture is about microservices, API first, cloud native headless. So, it looks simple like this, but what you want to do here also is, I think, separate the kitchen from the dinner table. The clients are the dinner tables, and from APIs down is the kitchen. So what would that look like with Juggel? So let's call it MACH the Juggel way. If you want to create a Juggel platform or a website with work instructions or an app with a process and evidence dashboard, you really want, but let's focus on the Juggel platform. You really want to be able to use, let's say, standardized APIs that allow you to use AI, file storage, external data sets. I'll explain a little bit more about that. Those documents, content, and I think also an audit log. I wouldn't know how yet, but that seems to me definitely a good idea. If you focus on this part, content, Juggel platform, because you see the Juggel platform in two places. And that makes sense. The Juggel platform below in the GRC scenario would be the Juggel platform that provides the content about standards, and the Juggel platform on top is the GRC platform. But if you focus on that part, it really is a headless CMS, and the headless CMS is also such a modern thing. Because it means that you manage content in a platform that you know, and you provide the content through an API so that you can use it anyway in any way that you want, in an app or a website or some other platform, Juggel platform. So let's focus a little bit on that, because I think it's very interesting. And important here is to understand the difference between the more infrastructural APIs that allow you to use AI, file storage, etc., and the API that presents your content of your platform, of your kitchen, presents your content to websites and apps that are really focused on delivering high quality information and also functionality to the end consumers. So this is a very nice scenario that I have with Juggel have implemented. I think next conference, I will be able to demonstrate that. It's a little bit too early for that, but I can assure you that's very interesting. So I think I can promise to show that next time. But let's focus a little bit on this BFF, backend for front end. The whole idea is of such a BFF is that it is optimized and secure backend specific for certain applications. So let's start with having an optimized and secure backend for Juggel. I think most of these APIs are generic enough so that you can use them in any Juggel environment, except for the content API. So let's go through those APIs just to have a sense of what they can mean in such a GRC system, and what is available now in Juggel, and what we can think of that could or should be developed next. So what is available in AI? Well, you've seen it. That's what it is. You have AI assistants that you can configure. What we don't have yet is that you can choose a supplier. What we don't have yet is the agentic AI stuff, so that you really can have steps after each other and do more intelligent things. I think last time I talked about Juggel takeoff. That would really be such an agentic thing. You have steps. You would first have to understand what the user wants, and then translate that to schemas, and then create pages. But that's all possible with such agentic AI stuff. And what I think is interesting as well, if you can integrate it, and that's what such a BFF is also very capable of, if you can integrate it with other APIs, such as if you store a file, that you run it through some AI validation or sanitization step. And that's especially if you have material that is provided by let's say by the external public, or people that then that might be a good idea. All right, file storage. Why would we do that? We can store files in MediaWiki, can't we? Well, I think there are a lot of good reasons for storing files outside of MediaWiki. One of them is that what I think is important and very interesting is that you are able to define in your schemas both public and private images, or both private and public documents. And the private documents and the private images are stored, in this case, in Google storage buckets that are private, and public images are stored in public buckets. So you can have both in one wiki. But other advantages are that you could have more granular access control, and for the documents, facilitate search, which is, by the way, possible also for documents that you store in MediaWiki. One of the reasons that I think is interesting, or using file storage, is that the server that runs MediaWiki is often more expensive than the storage, so that's also a cost thing. In Juggel, similar to how it's done in OpenCSP, is that information is stored in JSON format in slots. So you typically have a class properties slot and a data slot. And in Juggel, we also nowadays have a public data slot and an HTML slot. So there's a lot of information in the slot. This is about the data sets that are typically in the data slot. And if you get a lot of information, then it may not be a good idea to store that on the page with all the version control. You just want the ability to say, well, this is an external data set, so just configure in Juggel and say this is an external data set, so that the data is stored elsewhere. For the user, you don't notice the difference. The only thing is that it's stored elsewhere. But that also allows you to have more granular access control, because you know exactly the situation, and you really actively have to go and get the data so you can check whatever you want. What is about documents? Why would you want to do that? Why is it a bad idea to use MediaWiki as a document management system? Well, there's a lot of things that you can do with SharePoint and Google Drive that you can't do with MediaWiki. For example, share documents in a safe way with other people, or have secure documents in the first place. So what really works very nice, if you can from your wiki can have a tube in my case that allows you to link to a folder and then manage that folder. I would really, so that's running for Google Workspace. I would really like that for SharePoint, so if someone can help me. God knows I tried, but I didn't manage that. I couldn't do it. So if someone can help me with that, that would be great. So about content is very interesting because, and I have that, like I said, for this headless CMS scenario. The MediaWiki, it's a MediaWiki API that serves content. Everything is content, so HTML is created. If you have content with text and images, it all creates HTML that is stored in this HTML slot that I talked about, and that's delivered. So there's really nothing. It's very clean. What the content it delivers is very clean, and that works brilliantly, I would say. So what we need, of course, is also have some standard way to deliver wiki content in such a way that it can be used in other wiki platforms. So that's the scenario that I showed. When it comes to the governance, risk and compliance platform, and you want to have all the documentation, for example, or best practice controls, best practice risks. There's a lot of best practice content out there, and you really want to be able to share that in intelligent ways. So, but that's something that has to come there. Okay, audit log, I don't have that, so let's, but I think soon I'm going to pick an audit log tool and use it. What all of you will think, well, what is the role of MediaWiki in such an architecture? We are used, I think, to view MediaWiki as a monolith and put everything in it. But I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's a very good idea to to understand that MediaWiki is still the center of it all. It's where the knowledge management happens, it's where content management happens, but it's not where the document management happens. It's not where the large data sets are stored. It's great if you can use MediaWiki for what it's strong for, for its strengths, and use other tools and have a nice BFF. This whole concept of BFF, have a MediaWiki BFF, a Juggel BFF, that allows you to wrap all kinds of services out there, and to have a standard way to approach this. I think this is a perfect solution for a governance risk and compliance system, and for any other interesting MediaWiki solution. So, if you have questions, I can assure you that it's not yet open source, but if you are interested and join me on this quest, you are very welcome to contact me.
All right, thank you, Odd. Do we have any comments or questions? I have a few questions, actually. I mean, you talked about the fact that the MediaWiki is the back end, but what, maybe you said this already, but what would be the front end for all this content?
Well, what we for certain use cases, and I am thinking about the use cases that Rich presented yesterday. If you want to have work instructions and checklists, so that for really consumers of the knowledge, then it would really make sense to create in our case, we would use Vue to create a single page application website using Vue, and have that interface with the content API, so that you have the smoothest user experience available for those people.
Okay, and is that it? Okay, yeah, and for people who don't know Vue, but I assume you mean Vue, the JavaScript framework. Some people have talked about or have used MediaWiki as a front end by just having a separate skin that hides all the complexity, hides all the edit and history and so forth. Things that, what do you think about that approach?
Yeah, well, I do that too. So you can choose. You can do both. And in my case, there is I think security might be an argument. If you use, I also have wikis that have a public namespace, and that has only one page, and it works in a very similar way, but it is still in the wiki, and it looks great. Yeah, but you don't have all the capabilities that you need, that you might need. It's a choice. You can do that as well, your own, definitely.
All right. One last question: are you definitely planning to release this as open source?
It's not yet open source. It's going to be, no doubt, but I'm not. Yeah, it's not finished yet. So if there are people that want to join me, I will provide the code to them, and we can move on together. It's going very well, and I think it's very promising. So, yeah.
Great. Looks like a very interesting project. Thank you. It was great to hear about. All right. Okay, that was the